Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan, the YouTube channel not hosted by a sociopath, a narcissist, or a grifter. And you could add to that, we're not medical doctors, registered dietitians, nutritionists, anything like that. We're music producers, content creators that on occasion share images on our social media of foods that we are eating ourselves. And sometimes this completely triggers people, and we're not saying anything, hey, you gotta be vegan, and if not, you suck. No, just simply sharing food triggers people and reveals all sorts of wacky conspiracy theory, misinformation beliefs that they have. For instance, Angie, who runs all our social media like Instagram and Facebook, shared her pineapple banana float. It says, who doesn't love a frozen treat so healthy that you can enjoy it for breakfast? I know this fruity float looks nutty, but it's actually quite nice as it's made with just bananas, pineapple, and a dash of vanilla powder. No added anything, and you just need a blender to make it. So that's what I'm saying, no hate, no prejudice towards non-vegans, just sharing something that Angie made and ate on a particular day. But on Facebook, apparently one Cameron Garner Holman got triggered and has to reply without being prompted. We never say, hey, comment on this if you think it sucks. Nothing actually health about this, but okay. And Angie responds, it's completely made of fruit, a very healthy food group that most people don't consume enough of, and provides a link to a non-vegan source of information, Consumer Reports, describing the health benefits of eating fruit. So this anti-fruit guy says, so pure sugar with minimal vitamins, your pancreas doesn't appreciate this, nor does your metabolic health. My statement still stands. There's absolutely nothing healthy about this. Like, still stands based on what? You didn't refute anything in the articles. Angie points out, I guess you'd prefer not to actually read the articles explaining what the nutritional value of fruits are. You can make any statement you like, but that doesn't make it factual. Like I said, he stands by his statement, even though he provides no evidence to support it whatsoever, other than he believes it to be true. So let's actually look at the evidence and see who's right here. Is Cameron right in saying that fruit is toxic and has minimal nutritional value? Or is Angie right with her evidence-based information? Well, first of all, Cameron asserted that there's minimal vitamins in fruit, and as Angie pointed out, if he had read the article, you would have seen that fruit is packed with nutrients. When it comes to a nutritional bang for your buck, fruit is hard to beat. All fruits are high in fiber, potassium, and also most are good sources of vitamins A and C, folate, wide variety of phytochemicals, says a PhD epidemiologist at Tufts. Or we could believe this Cameron guy on Facebook. Furthermore, according to a PhD, RD, and senior dietitian at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles, fruits and vegetables both come packaged with innumerable health benefits we have only begun to define. And in all fairness to this Cameron guy on Facebook, I'm next to certain he's just merely repeating the complete misinformation, non-evidence-based nonsense he's heard from grifters on social media that have been saying this for years, that plants will kill you, they're toxic, and unfortunately, he's believed them, and he's here on our Facebook repeating this nonsense. Well, now is the time for us to educate you people that think fruits are toxic. So Cameron retorts, so if you think you get a bit of minerals and vitamins, that completely bypasses how unhealthy the constant glycolysis and glycemic load is, it's toxic. Instead of fighting with my dear sweet 55-year-old wife, Cameron should have just read the article that she so kindly forwarded to him if he's so concerned about glycemic load and diabetes. Once again, a registered dietitian at Tufts says, although the natural sugar in fruits is chemically similar to table sugar, our bodies process whole fruit differently because of the fiber, phytochemicals, and micronutrients. Fiber slows the rate that natural sugars are released into the bloodstream, preventing the spikes and crashes that might otherwise be experienced after eating a sugary treat. Cameron. Like I said, I'm sure Cameron gets his misinformation from grifters out there on the internet, and I've been responding to this claim since we started our channel in 2013 that fruit causes diabetes. If this were a known fact, you'd think you'd see some organizations of health professionals warning people against the dangers of eating fruit because it'll give you diabetes. Well, let's see if that's the case. I think the American Diabetes Association would know most fruits have a low glycemic index because of their fructose and fiber content. How about diabetes UK? You might think that the sugar content of fruit means that you cannot eat it, but the sugar in whole fruits does not count towards free sugar, so it's okay to eat. Medical news today, can eating too much fruit cause type 2 diabetes? Generally, eating fruit as part of a healthful diet should not increase the risk of diabetes. And unlike Cameron and the grifters he's been listening to, these health organizations aren't just making this stuff up. They're not pulling out of their butts. They're basing their opinions based on actual science. For instance, this meta-analysis, which looked at 59 studies, which included 77 meta-analyses and 66 health outcomes, found that there's no adverse relationships between fruit intake and health outcomes. Moderate quality evidence suggested that even one serving increment of fruit per day could decrease the risk of cardiovascular disease, which I might want to add is the #1 cause of death. Furthermore, there's moderate quality evidence that a 200-gram increment of fruit intake per day was associated with lower risk of breast cancer and risk of type 2 diabetes. And if we look at the results of the Venice Health Study too, we'd see that vegans who typically eat way more fruit than, say, non-vegans have the lowest body mass indexes, actually the only ones that are in a healthy range, and have the lowest prevalence of type 2 diabetes. And I do want to add, if you do have type 2 diabetes, please don't take medical advice from people like me. I've never had a day of medical school training, and neither have people like Cameron, even though they'll try to pretend that they know so much when they actually know even way less than people like myself and Angie who've actually researched the matter and know that eating fruit is not associated with diabetes. And then he reveals how anti-plant he is with more anti-vegan and anti-plant conspiracy nonsense like oxalates and lectins and phytic acids, this anti-nutrient nonsense that you hear from people who have this bizarre, non-evidence-based fear of eating plants. So once again, instead of believing these grifters on the internet, let's look at, say, Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and what they say about anti-nutrients. Are they harmful? Do they recommend that we avoid them entirely? And they rightly point out that many anti-nutrients, like the ones this guy pointed out, such as phytic acids and lectins, can be removed or deactivated by soaking, sprouting, or boiling the food before eating, which is usually what happens when you prepare these foods. And they say, keep in mind that anti-nutrients may also exert health benefits. Phytates, for example, have been found to lower cholesterol, slow digestion, and prevent sharp rises in blood sugar. Cameron, are you listening? And many anti-nutrients have antioxidant and anti-cancer actions, so avoiding them is not entirely recommended. And notice how they provide references to what they're saying here. They're just not making stuff up. Their opinions are based on scientific research. So what do people like Cameron and the grifters that he's listening to actually eat? If all the foods that we eat are toxic, full of anti-nutrients, well, it only really leaves meat. And that's no surprise because the vast majority of people I see promoting and grifting these outrageous non-evidence-based diets are carnivore diet people, but not solely. But anyway, let's see if that's really a viable source of finding non-toxic foods for you. Diets higher in nutrient-dense plant foods and lower in refined carbohydrates and animal foods are associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease mortality and all-cause mortality. And furthermore, if eating all this meat, well, the World Health Organization has determined through scientific research and review that processed meats, your bacons that all these meat eaters love, is considered the highest level of carcinogen, a group 1 carcinogen, and red meat is a group 2A carcinogen, a known or probable carcinogen. But no, the bananas and pineapples that Angie used in her float are toxic and dangerous and will kill you. No, if we do a quick review of the dangers of eating bananas and pineapples, you're not going to find too many. They're definitely not carcinogens, group 1 or 2, and instead you're going to find a whole list of healthful, positive health benefits of consuming bananas and pineapples. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that we have to make a video like this responding to people like Cameron who have been misinformed by grifters on social media to be deathly fearful of eating fruits because they believe incorrectly that fruits are toxic and plants in general are filled with anti-nutrients which are going to cause you to get disease and have a shorter lifespan, when everything I've showed you here as we reviewed a lot of the science that shows that everything that they said is completely backwards. Eating plants is associated with a lower risk of all-cause mortality and heart disease. Plants don't cause diabetes. Eating fruits don't cause diabetes. It's really not that hard to fact find, but if you're not an expert in this, as I am not, talk to actual medical doctors. Look for position statements from health organizations. Have you seen any health organizations make position statements that say, don't eat fruit because it's toxic? I mean, if what Cameron and these grifters was saying were actually true, you would have these position statements warning people, but they don't have these position statements because it's complete nonsense. Eating fruit is not toxic, it's not going to cause diabetes. That's why we see no such warnings from health organizations. Only warnings from people like Cameron and grifters on social media that have an axe to grind. They're trying to get clicks and views so they can monetize their carnivore message or whatever. But don't trust non-professionals. Look at not only just single health professionals, look at, because you can have like wacko zany maverick doctors, look at organizations of health professionals whose reputations are at stake. If they were to come out and say something that's completely dangerous and harmful to human health, they'd be held to pay, and that's not true for grifters. So anyway, guys, leave your questions and comments down below. Let me know if you ever heard anyone tell you that fruit is toxic. Fruit will kill you and causes diabetes, and plants in general will kill you. Let me know if you had anything to say about them and what evidence they shared. And hint, there isn't any other than having them refer you to some shirtless guy on TikTok rambling about a bunch of nonsense in front of a Chick-fil-A. Anyway, guys, comment, like, share this video, become a channel member. Until remember, next time, doesn't suck being vegan.